It's time for Recipe of the Day. So this is all the flavors of your favorite Thanksgiving turkey dinner, but in one quick and easy skillet. It's kind of like a skillet shepherd's pie using ground turkey, and it's just so tasty and comforting. Perfect for this time of year. I know you're going to love this ground turkey and potato skillet. Okay, to start, the recipe calls for a 20-ounce bag of shredded hash browns. This is like store-bought hash browns, but you could do your own, like just shredding potatoes on like a cheese grater. That's going to work. Then you're going to want about 2 cups of them. And, having said that, any potato is going to work here. We're going to start by cooking these shredded hash browns. So you could just skip that and use leftover mashed potatoes. Or if you have like tater tots or something, just cook them up and then you're setting them aside, and we're going to make the rest of the mixture in the skillet and then top it with the potatoes later. So whatever kind of potatoes you want to do, you're going to use, and just make sure they are fully cooked. So I'm going to talk about this with the hash browns. You're basically going to be cooking the hash browns in a skillet according to the package directions. If they are unseasoned, you're going to add a half teaspoon of salt, a quarter teaspoon of garlic powder, and about a quarter teaspoon of black pepper to those. Usually the way these are cooked is a little bit of oil in the skillet, and then you heat it over medium-high heat, add the potatoes, let them get really hot and start to brown underneath, drop the heat down, stir them, and cook until they're all nice and soft, little browned in places. So your cooked potatoes, you're going to do those in the skillet, and then you're going to take them out of the skillet and give it a little wipe, and then we're going to start making the turkey mixture in there. You're adding a tablespoon of cooking oil over medium-high heat. Once that's nice and hot, you're adding a pound of ground turkey. Now, I am calling for ground turkey here. That's what it's labeled as. You want to avoid the ground turkey breast here because it is a little bit lean and kind of dry for this recipe. If you really want to cook it though, I'm going to link to my recipe for how to cook ground turkey, which gives some nice tips for cooking ground turkey breast to make it juicier and more flavorful. It does involve adding mushrooms. That is the way to do it. I'm just telling you that is what it's going to say. But even if you don't love mushrooms, they're cut up really finely. You don't really notice them, and they do really, really help that ground turkey breast be juicier and more flavorful. Okay, so you've added the pound of ground turkey to the hot oil in the skillet, and you're going to sprinkle that with a teaspoon of salt, a quarter teaspoon of garlic powder, and a teaspoon of poultry seasoning. You can use store-bought poultry seasoning here or homemade poultry seasoning. I will link to my recipe for homemade poultry seasoning. It actually tells you how to make just a 2 tablespoon amount as well as a full jar of it. So if you just want to make a little bit, like for this recipe, you can. Or, the main ingredients in poultry seasoning are thyme and sage. So you could go with a half teaspoon of dried thyme leaves and dried sage. And then if you have them, a little pinch of oregano, rosemary, and marjoram, or just do the thyme and sage. They're going to work. Half teaspoon of each of those. Okay, now you don't have to stir those seasonings in. What I typically do is just sprinkle them over top as that turkey is starting to cook. And then once it's nice and brown underneath, about 3 to 4 minutes, then start kind of stirring it. And once you've given it a little bit of a stir, you're going to add 1 small onion that you have chopped up. And you're just going to keep cooking and stirring that occasionally until the onion is softened. It's about 2 to 3 more minutes. Then you're stirring in 2 cups of frozen mixed veggies that you have thawed. So the standard mixed vegetable mix that I am talking about has carrots, peas, corn, and green beans in it. And you're going to get 2 cups of that from the freezer bag. And then you thaw it either in the microwave, or you can put it in a bowl with some hot tap water, and that's going to do the trick. Then drain it. You can instead use canned veggies. Just drain them first. That's totally fine. You need 2 cups. So a 15-ounce can of mixed vegetables is going to be just about there. That's about 1.5 to 2 cups of vegetables, but you're fine. Don't open a second can for that. The other thing that you can do is use any leftover cooked veggies that you have. If you have some cauliflower, broccoli, asparagus, zucchini, anything like that is going to be really great in here. Even some corn left over from the other day, anything like that. I made this last week, I think, think with roasted broccoli left over. We'd done, actually not really roasted, it was air fryer broccoli, and I will link to my air fryer broccoli recipe for you because it is so good. My kids love it. Isn't that crazy? I think it's the little caramelized crunchy bits on it. Something. I also put lemon pepper on mine when I'm cooking it in the air fryer, and they love lemon pepper, so it might be that. But anyhow, I had about a cup of that broccoli left over. I chopped it up, and then I added a cup of the frozen mixed veggies, and it was delicious in there. So any leftover cooked veggie that you have, and then top it up with any canned or frozen vegetable, that's going to be great. Just make sure that it is either cooked or like soft, the way that the frozen mixed veggies are. They're not cooked, but something about that freezing process softens them. Same with the canned veggies. So either cooked or soft in that way, because we're not really giving them a chance to cook here. Okay, so you've stirred in the 2 cups of veggies, and then you're going to add 2 tablespoons of all-purpose flour, just sprinkled over top. Give that a quick stir, and then you're going to slowly drizzle in 1.5 cups of low-sodium chicken broth. I say low sodium here just so that you have control of the salt. You could taste it later and add more if you want to, and you're not like adding it by mistake with that broth, which is going to concentrate a little bit, which can concentrate the salt as some of the liquid evaporates away. You know what I mean? Okay, so you're stirring in 1.5 cups of the broth, and you will cook and stir that until it is thickened and simmering. It'll take 2 to 3 minutes. Then you are adding a 1/2 cup of heavy cream, or of half and half. I'm going to say this is kind of optional. You don't need it, but I just think it brings it all together and makes it so like rich and thick and cozy. But you've already made a little bit of a gravy sauce with the flour and the broth. So if you don't want to add this here, you do not have to. If you are adding it, and especially if you're using the half and half and not the heavy cream, you just want to heat it through for just like 30 seconds while stirring, and then take it off the heat. That's just because sometimes our dairy products can curdle when they're heated really high and boiling, and that happens more often with lower fat content things. So like if you were going to do milk here instead, a 1/2 cup of the milk, I would actually say bring that flour and stock or broth mixture up to that simmer, and then take it off the heat. Wait until it's done simmering completely, and then stir in the 1/2 cup of milk, and then it's never going to boil for sure, and it's probably not going to curdle. Okay, so then if your skillet was on the heat while you stirred it for like 30 seconds with the cream, take it off of the heat. If it's already off the heat, you don't do that because it's already off the heat. And then you are putting the potatoes in an even layer on top of the turkey mixture in the skillet, and you can just let the steam from underneath the potatoes in the turkey skillet kind of warm them through a little bit, or you can brown the top by putting the whole skillet under the broiler in your oven about 6 to 8 inches below the heat elements of that top part of your oven, and just let that brown a little bit, just a few minutes. Watch it carefully, because especially with some broilers, it can go from like not brown at all to very dark very quickly. So just watch it until it browns a little bit. That'll be reheating the potatoes as well. Then you take it out and you dig in. This is one I like to take to the table in the skillet because it just does look really, really nice, and everybody can scoop it onto their plates from there. Okay, I will put the link to this recipe in the show notes for this podcast episode, or you can head to cookthestory.com/ROTD and get it there. Everything there is arranged by date, so it's helpful to know that today is October 28th of 2025. And I will just let you know that I am a wonderful resource for all things turkey. If you are looking for ground turkey recipes, or how to roast turkey, turkey in the air fryer, anything related to turkey and gravy too for that matter, make sure you are going to cookthestory.com and thecookville.com, or if you're in Google, search for Christine Pittman turkey and you will find it all there. I'm Christine Pittman from cookthestory.com, thecookville.com, the all new chicken cookbook, and from this podcast, recipe of the day. I hope you have a great day. Let's get cooking.